Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love talking about? Games. And it seems like a lot of people out there who cover games seem to hate them, or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 1,611 of you beautiful people checking out this video today. Oh my goodness, we not only hit 1,600, we have blown past it and are on to 1,700. Thank you all so much. Welcome to the channel. You know, about 5 or so weeks ago, I did a video called NES Hacks and Homebrews, where one of the games was a game called Full Quiet for the NES. That was a game that I kickstarted, and I got the shirt for it and everything back in 2017. It's made by guys I met at Portland Retro Gaming Expo in 2015. Solid game called Haunted Halloween 85. I've only put about 10 minutes into it when I covered it for that video, but I really liked it. Well, unbeknownst to me, there was a port coming to modern consoles, which even at the time I was hoping they would do. And so they reached out to me. They did provide a code. So this is not a sponsored video, but just want to let you know they did provide the code to me. But also, I am someone who originally kickstarted this game. And if you remember my thoughts from a few weeks ago, I was very positive on it from only playing it for a few minutes. Now, I have beaten the game. Do I still have these positive thoughts? Well, let's find out.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
So like I said, I'm covering the Switch version of Full Quiet, but more or less this is a straight port of the NES game. They've added a little bit more controller support, so you have the ability to have the dive roll assigned to its own button, you can cycle weapons to its own button, and the reload is its own button as well. Now, I didn't get too far into the NES game, as at the time I wanted to sit down and really give it some time, so I'm not sure if there was other features as far as cycling weapons. Maybe that was assigned to the select button. But playing through the game, it's funny. It's clear the game was designed for the NES, which I really like. I love that because a lot of times you get these pixel art looking games that just, you know, they look good and all, but they're a little too intricate, whereas this one, you know, it has the nuances of the NES, where sometimes you'll go behind a waterfall and then the whole color turns blue because of the NES limitations, and just, this game is gorgeous. Like, I know I'm going to bring this up a lot. Yes, it is on a modern console, but you have to remember, this was developed and is meant for a system that came out in 1985. And it looks incredible. There's parallax scrolling, there's a day-night cycle, they've had all this nuance as far as, it's not really a crafting system, but there's almost a recovery system where you can get these little snake creatures or these other worm things and then turn them in for supplies and other things as needed. Now, as far as my thoughts on the game go, I'm going to come out there and make a very bold statement, but this is one of the most incredible games I've played in a long time. It is going to be up there for my game of the year for 2023, even though it technically came out last year. This is the port of the modern port, which to be honest, a lot more people will have access to. And if you are looking for something, especially, I know a lot of my viewers are around my age group, but if you're looking for something that really emulates that feeling of 1985, 1989, you know, popping in The Legend of Zelda and having no idea what to do and needing to rely on community resources or just yourself and figuring it out, this game has that in spades. Now, they have added the actual manual from the game. You have a little menu before you start it up where you can assign borders and things, because it is in 4:9. I turned it off just because I don't like the extra, but if you want to have a little CRT monitor on the outsides or things like that, you could do that. But pay attention to what the manual says, because I would advise just going through and reading it. You know, you're not going to understand everything, but after I've gone through it and put about 14 hours of game time, so it claims, though when you die sometimes it doesn't save because there's a lot of trial and error. So we'll get to some of the not so great things, but let's focus on the great things. Now, you get in there and you have no idea what to do, but it is just that pure exploration. You go through, it tells you have to get inside a shack before 2 a.m. because something will come and destroy you. So that is always prevalent. Now, when I played this on the NES, when I did that video, I didn't figure that out, but it is pretty straightforward to get into one of the first shacks to be able to save, and then that kind of becomes your home base. From there, you need to tune 7 different radios for I think a total of 9. There's 9 different sections, and really you can do it in any order. There is an order that they set up for you. So usually you would probably go from the plateau to the crags to the fields to the swamp to logging, then to the forest, and then eventually to the cliffs. But there is a way to get to the cliffs from the plateau, just as there's a way to get to the tower from the forest, but a way to get to the tower from the swamp. And they all connect. And then there's also the island, which you hear about, but you don't get access to it until very late game. And how do you tune the radios, mind you? Well, first you have to bring power to the stations. And the way you do that is you have this little mini game where you have to connect a circuit that's on a timer. Now, to one of the negatives, when you fail this timer, you get an electric shock that will take about 3 bars of health from you and can kill you. And one of the things about this game that can be exceedingly frustrating is that if you die, you lose all progress. Like like I say, it's the epitome of the NES style. So if you love that old school style, it is so satisfying when you figure something out, but it is also so frustrating when you lose time. Now, luckily, because it is rinse and repeat, or once you figured out what to do, you'll know what to do, so you're not wasting as much time. But there are certain things they put in there, like the giant tentacles that come out, which I actually didn't even get any footage of, because as you get farther into the game and you start clearing out and silencing the forest, getting the radios tuned and the signals tuned, the enemies will die down. So it makes it easier to go through the different sections, which it's funny. I played through the game and I didn't even recognize this was happening until I started up a fresh save to start from the beginning to get footage, and then realizing like, oh yeah, wow, this got easier the longer I went in it. And like I said, you have the ability to go the opposite way. So for the footage here, I went through the cliffs, which then altered somewhat how the story played out, because there was a wall I needed to bomb with the dynamite that going the opposite way wasn't the case. And so there's a lot of this non-linearity to the linearity. And another thing is that there's a lot of the what the hell's going on, because they'll tell you to remember your ticks and remember these other things, and you'll get these there's a storyline to it. Essentially there's this supernatural alien force that's been attacking this forest, and the radio frequencies keep it at bay and all this other stuff. Like, it's all over the place. I really want to say as little about this game as possible, because the more you know, the less of that satisfaction of figuring it out for yourself you will get, and it is incredibly satisfying for someone who's in their late 30s, grew up this kind of thing, and really longs for a game that doesn't hold your hand. And obviously the art style, the feel, it's meant for the NES, and they didn't make any bones about that. It is so nice. And also the way the gun works is it's meant for a turbo button on the NES, because if you hit turbo, you can rapid fire it out. Otherwise, you have to do individual button presses. So that's one of the things where I think playing it on the NES would be beneficial, because you could have, a lot of us who are into the hobby have the 8-bit duos with the turbo button on top. But you can still get down your old school tap, tap, tap. And having the ability to have the reload on the separate button and the dive on a separate button is helpful. Though I did find myself getting a little confused at times. Not sure why. It's so simple. But I think the experience on that would be better on the NES, because if I believe it was just hitting the A and the B button at once to do the dive roll, sometimes I found myself getting tripped up. Not sure. The combat for the most part is not incredibly difficult. Like I said, you can get the big tower things, and when you hit it, they shoot out 3 of the snakes, and they come through and they drop almost a Space Invaders way, and you're constantly diving and going back. Now you can crouch, and then in the crouch you can aim in all the different directions, but you'll find as you get going into the game that you will start getting better. And that's what's so nice about it. You'll start getting better, and you'll realize, like, oh, so in order to get through the circuitry, I need to do this. Oh, and then you can go through the little heart thing, and it doesn't increase your heart, but it does fill your life. And there's a little stopwatch thing. If you hit the stopwatch thing in there, you give yourself more time and grant yourself more time. And if the black things come, so it's this, because there's no information on this game. There's nothing. There was one particular part in the fields where I had the entire game, all the signals figured out, except I couldn't figure out the dang color signal. I saw the birds in the field. I knew what to do, and yet I still couldn't figure out the exact combination. And I had to go through about 4 or 5 different Let's Plays and videos until I finally found someone who could confirm my suspicion of, yes, I did find the right thing, and I just wasn't inputting it the right way. And that would be one of the drawbacks there, is that sometimes you'll know what to do, but they're just... like you won't recognize that, oh, I need to put the slash in there. Like there's the island has an incident of that too. Putting in the island code, once you figure out how to do that, you want to put slash. So the phrases are Morse code. So a lot of Morse code is important. So for instance, on this, you'll see the dots and the dots. That plays out a lot into the game, and so you have to recognize that. And what'll happen is, I don't want to get too much into it. So if this sounds interesting to you, as you get deeper in the game, there are some boss battles that you do not see coming that are incredible. There's different weapon types. You have a shotgun, a machine gun, your regular pistol. There's a sniper rifle, a ray gun. Although for the most part, your pistol is going to be the thing you use the most. There's a few instances where you need the shotgun to help you out with some of the swamp enemies. And then the machine gun, I never really found all that helpful. Even against the big tower creatures, I still found the pistol more helpful because you could rapid fire it even faster than the machine gun. Though for one of the boss battles, I believe the machine gun is needed. And the sniper rifle is just used in the sections where you look through the scope. And what happens is you run out of ammo for anything other than the pistol, and then you have to resupply. And the way you resupply is that you go to your base camp. So once you unlock the 7 different base camps that have the signals in them, you can sleep, and then you can resupply. And when you resupply, it'll then, if you have the circuitry completed, will give you the ammunition back. But in order to complete the circuitry, you need to use a fuse. However, be very judicious on using your fuses, because fuses, for the most part, are laid strategically throughout the world, and then every once in a blue moon, a mob, and I mean once in a blue moon, a mob will have a drop rate of dropping one. And that's why it gets frustrating, is that sometimes, I remember I was making a big push through logging into the forest, and I just had a run of luck where I found 3 or 4 fuses. I'm not even sure how it happened, but I got stuck in an area, and I couldn't find the cabin to sleep for the night, and I ended up dying. Now you do get health. You can find health bars, and then you can find med kits. And then when you collect the snake creatures, you can turn in 5 of the snake creatures to get a med kit, and you eventually will find backpacks to increase your capacity. And it really is that feeling of the Legend of Zelda from back in the 80s, where it's just go out there and explore, and when you figure something out, when you figure out how to tune the radio, or you figure out what it means by the different colors, it is so extremely satisfying. So if that sounds good to you, I would say stop this video right now, go check it out, because now I'm going to explain a little bit more of the mechanics, which it will help you enjoy the game more, but you're not going to get that satisfaction of figuring it out for yourself, okay? Alright, so in order to tune the radios, it's a 5-step process. So the first process is you need to get into the radio, and you gotta turn the dial and find the Morse code that's coming out. So the Morse code will give you a signal like dash, dot, dot, slash, dash. So then what you have to do with that is you have to go find a corresponding, essentially almost a keypad somewhere in that zone. So it's always going to be in that zone. So the forest Morse code will be in the forest zone, and vice versa. So you go and find that, and then you put in the code. Once you've done that, you will then somewhere in the zone be able to see a color pattern. So it'll be something like red, blue, red, or red, yellow, blue, and that's the color code. And then you're going to need to input that code into that same keypad you did the Morse code. Once you do that, you'll be able to go back to the radio, get a new clue to a symbol you have to put into a red keypad. Once you put it into that red keypad, which that could be anywhere in the zone as well, once you've done that, you then will be able to go back to the original radio and then do a little mini game where you have to match the 3 wavelengths. And the way you change the different wavelengths is by hitting the minus button, and you have to rotate it and then complete the signal, and then that's done. And then that whole section is done. Now that sounds simple on face value. You go through Plateau, you can do that pretty quickly. But as you get deeper in the game, sometimes once you get to the color code section, you'll see that there's a green code, or a pink code, or a black code, which there's only 3 colors on the keypad. It's yellow, blue, and red. So then that's where you can be like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do now? Same thing with the birds in the Plateau. They're not exactly the right colors, but they are making a sound. They're making sounds in order that sound a little different. And so you need to then, like, this is definitely a pen and paper type game. So sometimes and that's why the manual, when you have the physical edition, has room for notes, is that you'll want to make notes. Luckily, you can take screenshots, so that'll help with some things, especially as we'll get into it. But yeah, you might want to have a pen and paper just to write down, because one of the big negatives is the map system in this game is not the strongest. Like, it'll give you a good idea of where you're going, but it's not going to give you the most it's not going to help you a lot with seeing, oh, there was something I missed in that area. Other than finding the little NPCs that you need to hide and monitor them in stealth mode in order for them to do something, it's hard to know if there's an area you haven't been to yet. And that's kind of what got me. But then that's the point, is that you want to go through and explore, and you want to check it out, because as you go through the day-night cycle, the enemies, the coloring changes, and it's just such a fun game to explore, and the music is very, very good. But anyways, like I was saying, if you see the different colors, well, for instance, once you get to the part where you're looking for colors, you'll notice in the cliffs that as you're walking through, every once in a while you'll see a little colored alien dude that seems to be peeking out of the corner. And I'm like, why is that there? And then you'll notice all the caves have little dashes and dots above them. What is that about? Oh, that's Morse code. And the color is corresponding to the color that's on the color symbol. Oh my God. So if I go through and I write down, okay, pink means this, green means this, and then you go to the thing and put it in, and it works. And it's so incredibly satisfying, and it makes you feel like this is what I love about games. It's hard to quantify this. It's not that I'm trying to make myself feel smart, but it is that level of self-satisfaction of being like, wow, I was given no help. I was given a problem, and I had the ability within my own reasoning to accomplish it. And that's something that I think we are severely lacking in with a lot of modern games. Like, so much of the time, if you're standing for 5 minutes, your character will start narrating what you need to do, or you'll see a thing shining in the distance. Or just because of the game design, it's almost impossible not to know where to go, because that's the only place I can walk. And something like this, it's so nice, because if something's there, it has to be intentionally there, and because it is still based on an NES game, it's compact enough where you're not going to feel like you're walking through a needle in a haystack. Instead, you're going through a very well planned out, maze of haystacks. But yes, that's all I'm going to get into that. So if you need a hint of how the cliffs works, that's kind of how that works. But there are many things like that throughout the game. It is all extremely satisfying. It comes together so well. Story-wise, I couldn't really understand all that much, but I think I got the gist of it. But it's just such a satisfying game. So well done to Retrotainment. I mean, my goodness. If the Haunted Halloween series, the first one is kind of their Mario, the second one is more their Mega Man type attempt. This one is definitely their foray into the Zelda style, and obviously is one of my favorite genres. This game might be the best NES game ever made. I'm not even lying. This game is incredible. It's definitely up there with my favorite NES games ever, and it is my favorite homebrew, bar none. Like, I so enjoyed playing through this. I so loved getting lost into the forest and silencing it. And if there's one thing I can imbue in all you guys, give it a shot. As a nice incentive here, I'm actually going to do a giveaway. So I have a Steam key that came with my backing of the original that I've never used. So if you made it this far in the video, congrats. You can enter to win that and play the game for free. All you have to do is make a comment and then go and follow my Twitter account, and you'll see a link in the bio. So just follow it there, and then I will randomly pick a winner. I'll tweet it probably in a few days, and from there I'll be able to send you the code, and then you can check it out and let me know what you think. So yeah, Full Quiet, fully recommend it. It is incredible. I cannot believe how well done it is. And you know what, I would say buy the NES version too if you like the game, because as someone who really loves loves playing it on the old school games, I'm looking forward to playing through my actual card of it now that I've played it on the Switch. But yeah, that's all you get for this week, guys. It is, once again, I'm blown away by the level of support the channel's been getting lately. I can't believe the growth is just every day it's insanity, and it is so appreciated. Sorry if this video is a little niche for some of the newer viewers. Next week we'll be going back to more of the general topics that are a lot more popular, but I really, I believe in what these people do. I believe in this game, and I think more eyes need to be on it, because this is exciting. It's exciting that we're getting experiences like this that I feel are sorely lacking, and it just shows you that you don't need hundreds of employees and $200 million budgets to make a fantastic game. You just need some people with some passion and some know-how. So yes, it has been so nice getting a hold of you guys. Take care.